Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight, Abaco's Apm Curfew comes into effect. Environmentalists in Grand Bahama concerned over the long-term impacts of an oil spill. And an MP provides lunch for children in his constituency. Welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, Abaco's Apm Curfew starts tonight. The move comes as health officials say they noted an increase in COVID-19 cases on Abaco. According to a statement released by the Ministry of Health on Thursday, there were 48 positive COVID-19 cases on Abaco as of February 23rd. The ministry also noted that there were a few cases at the Murphytown Primary School in central Abaco. 4 positive cases originated from a construction site, and 6 cases were confirmed to have come from the Marsh Harbor Clinic. The Marsh Harbor Clinic was subsequently closed, and its employees are quarantined. A team from the surveillance unit in New Providence was sent to Abaco to conduct contact tracing. In addition to the new curfew, an amendment to the emergency order means that persons traveling out of Abaco will be required to obtain a negative RT-PCR test to travel to other islands in the Bahamas. That does not apply to the Abaco Keys. 2021 should be a much better year for the Bahamas in the fight against COVID-19, according to the director of the government's infectious disease program, Dr. Nakia Forbes. In just a few weeks, the country will mark 1 year since the first positive case was confirmed. Forbes said with doses of the vaccine expected shortly and more advances made in the fight, this year is shaping up to be better than last.
Overall, we can be optimistic that this year should be better than last year, all things considered. So we have several vaccine candidates that all do just about the same thing. They stop people from getting COVID, they prevent people from getting sick with COVID, and they stop people from getting hospitalized and getting seriously sick and dying. So that is a good thing.
Though health officials have been monitoring isolated spikes in several workplaces on New Providence and Abaco, Forbes says the Ministry of Health acted fast and appears to have it under control. When it comes to the easing of restrictions, Forbes says worldwide trends have shown an easing once vaccinations become available.
We've already seen countries that are rolling out the vaccine. They've made some changes in what freedoms could be allowed if one gets a vaccination. So in Europe, for example, you could maybe have face-to-face gatherings again. You could enjoy, say, going to gyms and other activities. That once you're vaccinated, the CDC has come out and said that if you are vaccinated and you are identified as a contact of somebody who has COVID, maybe you wouldn't need to quarantine and so on. And so it should look more hopeful because the vaccine should allow protection, but vaccinations rather should allow protections, and people need to get vaccinated to get to that point. It takes a certain tipping point. You have to vaccinate a large majority of the population, at least 70%.
In the meantime, Forbes says Bahamians must continue to follow safety precautions so progress can continue to be made. The Center for Disease Control in the U.S. has recommended double masking in some cases. Forbes was asked whether Bahamians should follow that same advice.
It comes down to your mask quality. For certain basic fundamental principles, your mask should be fitting snugly, but not so tight that you can't breathe through it. Layered fabric is helpful. And so double masking can help to filter more particles. So that's essentially what it is. If you wear a cloth mask, you could wear a surgical mask under that, or 2 layers of cloth masks. That's very important. There are some important guidelines about not double masking. If you're having a KN95 mask, you probably shouldn't double mask because it could affect the fit and the breathability. And then, of course, if it obstructs your vision and if you can't breathe, that's not recommended. But sure, if you're using cloth masks and the like, double masking can help.
The National Insurance Board has appointed a new director, according to a statement issued Saturday. Certified public accountant James Moss assumes the post of NIB director effective today, taking over as CEO of NIB, heading the executive management team responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Social Security organization. The top post at NIB was left vacant after then-director Dr. Nicola Virgil-Rolle abruptly resigned in late November. Moss currently serves as director on the board of BEC and Bahamas Power and Light and is a former director of the Bahamas Telecommunications Company Limited. Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Brave Davis earlier this week clarified the review of value-added tax he would undertake if elected to office would be to determine whether the consumer tax could be lowered from the current 12%. Davis said last week that tax reform is on his party's agenda should it form the next government. He said he would cause a review to determine if VAT is still appropriate for the Bahamas given the current state of the economy, a position that was criticized by Minister of State for Finance Kwesi Thompson as being politically motivated. After concluding a study and producing a white paper on tax reform in 2014, the Christie administration implemented VAT at 7.5% in 2015. In 2019, the Minister administration increased the rate to 12%. That was in 2018. The study suggests that VAT be implemented at a rate of 15%, which would include the removal of customs duty. However, the Christie administration settled on the lesser 7.5% rate. The government announced last year that as a part of its Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19 economic recovery plan, it would implement a tax reform committee charged with reviewing the current regime to grow revenue. Economic and financial experts have suggested government implement corporate and/or personal income taxes as part of reforming that tax regime. Davis didn't commit an administration led by him to introducing such changes, only saying that those who earn more should pay more. Some areas of Grand Bahama still struggling to recover after Hurricane Dorian. Environmentalists revisited the site of an oil spill that took place during the monster storm.
We wanted to come out here and do an assessment of the area, take baseline surveys of what would have happened after the spill.
Concerned about Grand Bahama's freshwater system and other parts of its delicate environment, Executive Director of Waterkeepers Bahamas, Rashima Ingram, says the group commissioned an independent environmental specialist to evaluate the environment near the site of a recent oil spill on Grand Bahama.
It's been a year and 5 months, and we've seen some cleanup efforts. We've also seen times when it was paused because of the global pandemic, but that really speaks to things that need to be put in place, some government policies that really need to be tightened.
In September 2019, as Hurricane Dorian ravaged Grand Bahama, 55,000 barrels of oil being stored at Equinor's South Riding Point facility in East Grand Bahama spilled, significantly affecting a nearby forest. Environmentalists at the time called the spill catastrophic.
We're paying attention to the effects that the spill may have had on wildlife, as well as on the plants and the ecosystems in this area.
Of major concern are pine forests. Dr. Ancelino Davis is the independent environmental specialist brought on from Science and Perspective. He says the hurricane's devastating winds, saltwater intrusion, and of course the oil spill are making it difficult for pine forests to thrive.
The oil that was sprayed from this spill or this release, that coated a lot of the trees and it coated the ground and the environment. This is a fire-dominated system. So naturally, the forest burns. But when it burns through the leaf litter and then the seeds can come up.
But with the presence of oil,
it burns hotter, it might burn longer, and also release those toxins, which then again coat the leaves of the trees. So the trees actually can't photosynthesize and they can't do what they need to do, as well as their roots, once covered in oil, can't take up the nutrients.
Davis says the independent nature of his work is important. He says his goal is to have local Bahamians, the ones affected by the spill, assessing the impact.
We're not being funded by the polluter. We're not being funded by the government. And a lot of us, we're contributing based on our passion for the environment.
Still to come on our news, a cabinet minister is confident that he'll be re-elected. Plus, a beauty business doing well during the pandemic. Stay with us.
You killed me, but...
I did not.
Put your hands in the
One.
air and wave like you just
Two.
How
we feeling?
Good.
I gotta answer. Let's Move with Me Bowflex Barbie is coming back to RTV channel 212 for season 2. We have new days and times, new guests, and new workouts, but we're on the same great mission, to get you moving. Be sure to tune in to Let's Move season 2, premiering March 2nd at 6:30 p.m. And be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday right here on RTV channel 212.
Minister of Financial Services, Trade, Industry and Immigration Ellsworth Johnson defending the Minister administration's track record, adding that if he is self-assured that he'll be re-elected. Berthley McDermott reports.
Yamacraw Member of Parliament Ellsworth Johnson confident that he will again secure his seat in the next general election.
Well, I think I have the majority of the hearts in Yamacraw, and I think I will be I will again be the representative in Parliament for Yamacraw. And if that is not the case, to God be the glory.
Johnson, who was also the Minister of Financial Services, Trade, Industry and Immigration, successfully won his seat back in 2017, defeating the PLP's candidate by nearly 900 votes. Since then, Johnson says he is proud of the work he's done in his constituency so far.
First coming into office, the first thing we did was we did a strategic analysis of the structural needs of the community with Ministry of Works, Ministry of the Environment, and so that took us to let us know where there were draining problems, speed bump problems, lighting issues, and all those different things. And we've worked assiduously to deal with that.
But that's not all. Johnson says they've donated more than 300 electronic devices to students in the area, introduced an employment program, and demolished derelict buildings in the area. But while he touted his success in his constituency, it hasn't been an easy journey for the Minnis-led government. The FNM came under fire for its response to Monster Hurricane Dorian and for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Johnson coming to the government's defense.
Look at where we are. We are in an enviable position. First world countries got it wrong. First world countries. We are led, and I've always said this, our strategic leaders in this pandemic is the medical professionals. The Prime Minister's always said that. They advise us. They tell us what to do. Now, obviously, there's sometimes some remonstration in terms of, are we going too far? Are we being too harsh? But the medical professionals will say to us, listen, we have our reputation to protect.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The director of the Pan American Health Organization is fearful that the rate of vaccine distribution in the region is moving far too slow to have the desired impact. George O'Bain reports.
During this week's press briefing, Director of the Pan American Health Organization, Dr. Carissa Etienne, lamented the rate of vaccines are simply not enough.
Increasing access to COVID-19 vaccines in the Americas should be a top global priority. Our region has been hit harder by the pandemic than any other, and millions remain vulnerable to infection and death. Some 28 countries and territories have started delivering COVID vaccinations in our region after securing bilateral deals with manufacturers or receiving small donations from other countries. But this is not enough, and it is not acceptable.
According to Etienne, the vaccine should not be for the privileged, but for all.
The life-saving power of vaccines should not be a privilege for the few, but a right for all, especially the countries at greatest risk, like those in the Americas, who remain the epicenter of the pandemic. Our region needs vaccines as soon as possible, and as many as possible, to save lives.
The PAHO director says she remains encouraged as COVAX has promised to ramp up the number of available vaccinations each month.
One recent development, offers a glimmer of hope. Countries that are lined up to receive early doses from COVAX were notified about their upcoming shipments. This is really something to kindle much hope. Hundreds and thousands of doses will be delivered in the next few weeks. Supplies remain limited, and the COVAX deployments will be small at the beginning, but they will ramp up every month.
Reporting for Our News Weekend Edition, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
When Our News comes back from the break, a beauty business flourishes during the pandemic.
Okay?
No. Yeah, I got. That's supposed to happen.
Listen. Wait. Where's your heart? Where is your compassion? Do you have a soul?
Hey, Jimbo, clear my schedule for the rest of the day, eh?
Where do you go, boy? You can't go.
And what are the chances we can actually operate on the patient? Come on, man. Surgery will begin in 2300 hours, okay?
So we two are rappers, right? These rappers, man.
Silly girls, pretty girls, ghetto girls, pretty girls, kind girls, funny girls, yeah, we got all kind of girls.
the track, T on the mic. First I was in the Honda, now I on the bike. I tell her hop on back, she holding on my back. I chew the wide back, straight back, 12 o'clock. Too much girls to choose from like any, many, mighty, mo.
Welcome back. The beauty industry took a hit in 2020 when a number of face-to-face businesses were forced to reevaluate the way they did business. But one entrepreneur found her business growing in ways she never imagined. Here is Christina Dragovich.
I made non-stop. Last year, I must say, has been my best year regardless of the pandemic.
That's how Salon IV owner and stylist Kendisha Anderson describes her business during the pandemic, once the competent authority gave business owners the all-clear to reopen under strict protocols. But the business owner says there was a rough patch where she wasn't sure how she was going to keep her business afloat.
It was hard on me because I do have a son to take care of. School never stopped in terms of the virtual school fees had to been paid. And whenever it was necessary, when we could have come back to work, my clients couldn't wait. It was crazy. I have fully booked days every day.
Anderson says she's a one-woman show running her salon off of appointments only. It's how she started and the encouragement of her clients that keeps her going.
My aunt was supposed to do my hair when I worked at the bank, and she didn't. It was our first Christmas party, and she came home, she said that she have a headache, and I just took it upon myself and I did my own hair.
Anderson says she received so many compliments and inquiries about who did her hair at the party that those same co-workers became some of her first clients. That was about 8 years ago. She's since left her full-time job at the bank to focus on hair. Now she's balancing work, being a mother, and providing for her family.
My mom and my aunt both are in a hotel, and you know how that is for them right now. So they're taking on that responsibility for me, and I'm very thankful for them.
Anderson found the magic of keeping her business alive was pursuing her passion and not being afraid to try something new.
With me and leaving my full-time job, I just took that leap of faith, and I kept going. It was rough many days. Some days I didn't have clients. I had like one client a week sometimes, but I kept going at it because I know eventually it would have grown, and thank God for social media.
You can find Anderson's artistry at Salon IV 242 on Instagram. Reporting for our news, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Students get a healthy lunch from their MP. That's coming up when our news returns.
Imagine. That's where every advancement begins, with an idea that things can be different, better. Now, imagine a world where your entertainment experience was all about you, your style, your show, at your budget. At Rev, that's what we've imagined. To join the conversation and learn more about the future of Rev TV, visit us at rev.bs/imagine.
Track and field starting us off as the Roadrunners Classic track meet taking place yesterday over at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Young competitors from the various track clubs around New Providence taking part in this one. Some of the events on the agenda including the 100 meters, the 200 and 800 meters, as well as the 4x1 and 4x400 meter relays. All in all, the meet went off pretty well with the next scheduled event set for March 20th. And introducing to you young C.C. Smith, who is doing big things in the sport of gymnastics. The 10-year-old has been making quite a splash at tournaments in the New York area, mostly recently, first in the uneven bars at the USAIG State Championships in New Jersey. She's showing the potential to one day represent the country at the highest levels and looking pretty good in the process. And how about Dante Stewart? Connecting on his first collegiate home run for Northwestern State. You get a good look at it here. Stewart would finish 1 for 4 in the day as his team gets the 5-3 victory.
Bain and Grantstown MP Travis Robinson was on hand at Albury Sales Primary School earlier this week, offering healthy lunches and school supplies to students. Robinson said it was the launch of Let Kids Learn, an initiative in the constituency that targets the mental, physical, and educational needs of students at the 5 schools in the area.
A lot of kids being home, parents may have taken frustration on them during these tough economic times. So whatever abuse or whether mentally, physically they went through, we're providing them with counseling. Secondly, we're providing them with healthy lunch snacks. We know that kids being home throughout the day, eating junk food, chips, soda, and sweets. Now that they're coming back into the classroom for face-to-face, we're providing them with, fruits and vegetables and granola bar and various vitamin C supplements to ensure that they get off to a good, healthy start of the beginning of school. We're also providing them with the materials they need.
Operation Let Kids Learn is part 2 to the Bain and Grantstown Great Cliff campus. Robinson expressed great pride that 66% of the students who were a part of that cyber campus received a GPA of 3.0 or above. For those who were not able to receive high marks last term, Robinson said there's a plan.
Extended after-school class. We know that a number of students were unable to get on to online learning, and so there's a gap between those students coming back in the classroom now and those who were not able to get on during the 2020 year of online learning. So we're providing them with the after-school tutoring and mentoring in math and English and reading and writing, etc.
Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. To catch Our News on the go, you can download the Rev Go Play app. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Jared Higgs. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.